No, man, last night was crazy. That's why these tournaments, I know I talk about it and people are like, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm like, bro, y'all don't understand. Like, if you watch this casually, if you watch fighting games casually, it's really cool to. It's a lot of people that are lucky to be out on the outskirts and just looking in. Like, I never, and for me, it's turning into like how people look at sports teams. You know, they look at like individual like players. They like hold them to very high regard when it comes to performance and the whole nine. Like a lot of people don't understand the amount skill it takes to be consistent when people are this good. I ain't gonna say one of the fears. I think that's one of the things that is taken for granted. People that can consistently play games at a top level, and not just for the time being, but even as the game gets older, right? Marvel vs. Capcom 2, for instance. I hosted, I rated Justin after my stream yesterday, and he was playing Marvel 2, right? In what 20-year-old game, but he was still trying to maximize combos for teams. Like he was still like, man, I want to get this to work. Like that. Like I really respect the player, like the competitive player that does that. Not saying I got anything against a player that, jump ship or plays another game. But for me, like I'm about the longevity. I like when games have enough time to breathe. This is one of the reasons I feel like Tekken 7 is in such a good spot. Is because the game has been updated. People are still playing it. They keep adding characters to it. And they are even adding gameplay mechanics, which I don't like. I know other games have done it, like Street Fighter V has done it. I'm not sure if like Injustice or NRS games has done it, but when games do that and they evolve as games go on, past 2 or 3 years, that game gets exponentially more difficult to stay consistent at. And not only to stay consistent at, but to improve at. I mean, obviously it's gradual, right? Obviously it's gradual, but if you compare, how long a lifespan of a game is to how many people consistently and continue to play it till the end of its lifespan, I feel like that's one of the only real ways that you can accurately judge any kind of competitional effort, right? Like if someone's like, yo, I've been playing in NRS games for the same NRS game for like 5 or 6 years. Like I think it's really interesting to go in and look at like their consistency over the years, not to just like bash it or anything like that, but just to compare it and just compare it to the game overall. Like that's why I think it's really cool that certain games are like adding stats. They're showing you how much you win versus certain characters on a certain stage, or even in the case of Guilty Gear, like teching, blocking, whatnot, etc., etc. So for me, it's definitely more about how long this game can be played and who is playing that game at the end of its lifespan. No offense to anybody that's played it early and probably cashes out a little early. Nothing about that. But I'm definitely looking at the overall. I want to look at the end of the lifespan. I want to be able to go back and look at it and be like, but blah, blah, blah played early on in the lifespan. But like towards the end of Street Fighter V, these players really continue to play and kind of evolve their game. Sako is one of those players. Momochi, one of those players. Mago, one of those players. Punk, one of those players. Brian F, I feel like also one of those players. There's a lot of, Street Fighter players. Big Bird, Problem. Like there's so many players out there who consistently try to upgrade and like perform. Yeah, Ayo, Gil Toss. Yeah, the Harada secret data. I think that Harada, and this is kind of like off topic, I think that Harada has one of the best overall thought processes when it comes to competitive gaming and like the development. That's why I think it's really cool that he is the esports head, because, and I've said this before, it gives him the opportunity to take his knowledge and kind of spread it throughout the fighting game development cycle to these other companies, as well as just the fact that, believe it or not, but Harada and Tekken, it's one of the longest running fighting game franchises with some of the most legacy than any other fighting game. So for me, and to hear him have the data of these players, and not only have it to the point of succession and winning in tournaments, because that's, anybody can do that. You can go look up standings and see how somebody did in a tournament. But apparently Harada and Bandai Namco, Michael Murray and everybody else who's involved with the development process, they look at that data and they're able to talk about it and convey why they make certain changes comparatively to not making certain changes. And I feel like Tekken is one of the games that has consistently done it better than a lot of other fighting games, in all honesty. And it could just be, specific to, Tekken, because of, they've had a lot of time to kind of season it and get used to it, even when they have new things in there that might not work the way they're intended, or new characters. So, but yeah, man, I'm a big fan of those games. I'm a big fan of the lifespan of games that looks more at the end. Like I want if somebody's like, yo man, I've been playing Guilty Gear Strive to the end, right? So and I'll use Guilty Gear Strive as an example. And I know I'm going on a rant, so but y'all know how I get about this shit. So let's put Guilty Gear Strive into an example, right? Now once again, this is not knocking anybody that, you know, says that they won't play it. But let's just say that Sonic Fox says that, you know what? Wins a bunch of tournaments, gets halfway through, you know, and we don't even get to the end of this year, right? We don't get to the end of this year, and Sonic is not playing Guilty Gear Strive anymore seriously after this point. I'm still interested in their thoughts about the game and how it's going to evolve and the defensive options and whatnot, et cetera, et cetera. But I take that with a lot of salt. Like, I'm like, you know, like I get it, but you might not be going for the long haul of the game. And honestly, when it goes back to it, like retroactively, we get 2 or 3 years in, we're still going to talk about Sonic and how they are ridiculously good at Guilty Gear and how effective they were with Leo and with all these other characters. And it'd still be a footnote, but once it gets to, you know, 5 years in for Guilty Gear Strive and we got all these different characters and all the matchups change and they've, you know, nerfed, buffed, patched, adapted, fixed the game and it gets to a certain point, I'm really interested in that. That's one of the reasons I'm really interested in fighting games, because I love to see how the meta evolves over time. Like as the game continues to be played over time, the meta changes because people start to understand the system more. Perfect example is the Guilty Gear defensive options when it comes to instant block, faultless instant blocking. And you can compare that to any other game like parries, slashback in other Guilty Gear games. All those things, being able to put those into your gameplay and what that looks like at the end, because I feel like whoever makes those games, typically the end game is what's going to be the most polished, not only just by the people who made the game, but by the players who continue to stick with the game, evolved and understood how the game is going to work, and like actively put like thought process and like game plan behind using for in Street Fighter. Just to give you guys examples and context, V-Shift, right? People using V-Shift to strictly get out of not real block strings, right? Like if somebody's using a fake block string and you use V-Shift to punish it, right? That's one level of it, right? Another level of it is using V-Shift properly in a string where there's a proper gap and they do a move big enough to where you can literally put a button there, punish them, and reverse the momentum of the game, right? And then there's another level to that for V-Shift still and Street Fighter V still, where the opponent can, you know, read a move ahead, know that you're going to V-Shift, and have a punish or a meaty ready to catch that option, right? And then there's still another level where you could just do V-Shift to get out of the situation, not hit a button, you know what I'm saying? Like, so instantly that initial use of said skill that's been added later on in the lifespan is going to take some time to evolve. But I pay a lot of attention to the players that go in and try to work the evolution of any new tactic, any new gameplay mechanic into their meta for the long-standing lifeline of a game. That's what I'm truly interested in when it comes to fighting games. Like, I'm really interested in that. I want you to be able to talk about the game to me in its initial stages, and I want to know how your mind changes about the game when the lifespan of the game gets to like 3 or 4 years. Yo, what's up with it, Jumanji? Man, my bad. I was actually I was literally in my head just fucking talking right there. Yo, can y'all make some noise for Jumanji in the chat? Yo, Jumanji, I was legit talking about you before you got here. Good shit last night. Man, hit my man with some Danny Glovers, though. Yo, Jumanji, bro. When you gonna give me my games, man? You keep telling me you gonna give me the Yoshimitsu rundown, and then you out here stunting on ICFC, getting second place and shit. You know what I'm saying? Are you trying to hold the tech? Do you not want me to be good versus Yoshimitsu? Is that why you not playing me, bro?